Hello, welcome to this video. This video is a Philosophy Sunday video, and it's going to be called Be a Creator. I'm saying a lot of words strange today. Be a creator, don't be an editor. Okay, so this is the idea that the editing process when you are creating is not very useful in terms of your creativity, and it's something that I think gets in the way for many people of them actually expressing themselves. And I want to explore this idea on this video about editing, what it is, how it works, when you should do it, when you shouldn't do it, and then get deeper into actually what's happening when you are creating, and hopefully give you a different idea at the end of this video of what creating actually is. Because I think the problem that happens with people is their understanding of what creativity is not accurate, or at least could be questioned. So the editing process is when you've got material. Say if you've got material, it's being able to say, I'm going to put this there, I'm not going to use that, I'm going to use this, I don't like that, I do like this, and I don't like that. Okay, that is basically what the editing process is. It's about reducing stuff down to where the quality is, getting rid of the chaff so only the wheat is left. This is what editing is. And I think for a lot of people, they think that's what creativity is. So let's just have a look at the creative process. The creative process is you have some sort of want or desire to express how you feel about the world around you. So this is really important, how you feel. We're not looking at science. We're not trying to work out truth or fact. We're trying to express how we feel about the world around us, in the world around us. That is basically what creativity is. And human beings have developed a whole different ways of you expressing how you feel about the world. So there are these, you could call them technologies: painting, writing, music, all sorts of things. But other things could also be creative, and they can be artistic. And as humans move forward, to wherever they're moving forward to, they seem to develop new ways of expressing themselves. But when you look at these expressions, they seem to have commonalities in them, in that it's something that exists outside the person, it exists in the world, and it tries to communicate that feeling to other people. So it's like trying to explain through other objects, which could include your voice. So this is what I'm doing now. I see my channel as being primarily artistic, and then I have artistic license. Now, what the hell is artistic license? Artistic license means we can do stuff that follows a certain pathway that we wouldn't normally do if we were dealing with facts, if we were dealing with actual things that are truth or not truth. There's artistic license here. I don't feel like I have to tell the truth because this is art. You know, I could be not telling the truth, I could be telling the truth. When you watch this video, you're watching a piece of art. That's what I feel I am doing on this channel. So I feel that what's actually happening here is the crux of what creativity is. I didn't realize it when I first started doing this YouTube channel, but as I got into it, I realized that what I was doing here was very similar to what I do. Well, it wasn't similar, it's exactly the same thing as what I do in music, but that this was dealing with another aspect of understanding the world, which music doesn't so much deal with. Language tends to deal with the formal aspects of the world. I hope that's the best way of explaining it. It tells you about the world. It tells stories, and those stories can either, in some cases, could be elucidating truth, right? They could be elucidating truth, but within an artist thing, the truth exists within the art. So if you watch something like Schindler's List is based upon an awful truth, the truth of the Holocaust. it tries to deal with that truth in artistic forms. Is the story exactly what happened? No. Is the way things panned out the way it happened? No. Spielberg has used artistic license because the truths that are contained in Schindler's List are actually at the service of trying to transmit the feeling. All right, we can read all the facts we want. We can say 6 million people were killed in the Holocaust, but it doesn't explain it. Artists come along and they explain the feeling of it. There is a film, I think it's a French film called Shadows and Fog, I think, and that also deals with the Holocaust, but in an entirely different way, in that there's no footage, there is no photographs, there's nothing historical in that film. It's just contemporary interviews and then shots of the concentration camps at that contemporary time. And that is also very powerful. The way those two films, the Schindler's List being actors acting, and it's got lighting and it's got editing and storytelling and all that bit, that is the content, that is the way it is done. The actual, what it's about and what's in there is the form. And the form is like the way we grasp at the world to try and extract meaning from it, right? So the analogy that's always used is that if you pick up a cup, it's not a simple action of just picking up that cup. You have to reach out and you have to become the cup. Your being has to wrap around the cup, right? To understand and take in that cup, you have to become the cup. You reach out. There is intention there. Now, this idea is an ancient idea that we are reaching out from our consciousness into the world. But we now live in a cultural epoch, a huge cultural epoch, which is a post-Enlightenment epoch, where Descartes came out and he said something very radical, is that you could switch all that off that we're in, right? You can just say none of that is real, and we can reduce everything down to just what's going on in our mind, and we can form ideas in our mind and then test them. You know, so I think, therefore I am. So that idea has permeated. It's been incredibly useful. The fact that our ideas come from our brain and they go out into the world. We form an idea, and that idea is formed out of us. It is our idea. We decide to have an idea. That is something that exists in the world. Science is based upon that. It's about that way of reaching out into the universe to understand it, right? So when we start to think like that, we then suddenly come up with a thing about, well, what is reality? We know what is we have separated reality from us. This is what Descartes does. He places the individual human in the universe, like there. It's like that goes, here I am, forget all that's there. This is just me. And that extraction is actually false, because the whole universe is contained within you. Right, so it's really interesting that there's I believe there is a strong dichotomy in the way the universe works, and then the way we experience the universe around us. So I believe that there is a oneness. Obviously, there is the totality of everything. Right. That's a statement of fact. There's a totality of everything. And that totality of everything, we are within. We don't really understand how we're in it, and we're trying to work it out. So what we're doing is that we could see that the totality is just us, right? That's the weird view of it. Or we could see that we're a tiny speck down at the bottom of it, and we can get lost in the infinity-ness of that, right? Now, we use those two models at the same time, even though they contradict itself. So what Descartes is saying is that that we can shut ourselves out, so reduce ourselves just down to us, which of course we can't do, because the totality of the universe, the oneness, is in us. But the reason why he wants to do that is because people are now becoming aware. As soon as you start to, look at the universe, you start to realize that there's literally billions of, Carl Sagan told us over and over again, there's billions of stars in our galaxy, and there's trillions of galaxies. And that's of the universe we know. So we are a literal tiny speck. And then if we just boil it down to our solar system, the Earth is a tiny speck in our solar system. And if we boil it down to just to the Earth, we are a tiny speck on the Earth. Even if you boil it down into your town, and maybe your town's got 50,000 people, 100,000 people in it, to see yourself residing within that 100,000 people just in your town, you realise you are still a speck. Right, we see ourselves as once as a speck and as the totality of the universe. That is something that I think is profound, and I think the reason why we see it like that is because we have evolved two ways of understanding the world. One is, I would say, is temporal. This is the way I explain it. It's temporal. So it's about, looking forward and looking back. It's about understanding what happened before to be able to predict what's going to happen in the future. This is what science is based upon. It assumes there's a predictability to our experience. So, and that predictability could be called material reality. But in reality, if I could use that term in this term, that reality is actually order. That's what order is the ability to predict what's going to happen next, So it's like, I pick up this Santana album like this and I drop it and it falls on the floor and I go, oh my God, that fell on the floor. I wonder what will happen again if I do it. Oh, it fell on the floor again. I'm damaging my Santana album here. It's sacrilege. And that's interesting, isn't it? That I feel that there's a quality to this where it shouldn't be damaged. But I can predict every single time that it will fall on the floor. And that prediction is based upon the past and going forward. That is order. That's the temporal plane that we exist in, time. But we also exist in space. And we could shut off everything we know about time and just exist in the now. And this is what all the mindfulness wants to do, because all our problems, all our anxieties and depressions and all these things come from our awareness of time and order and the prediction of order. That's where it comes from, because we put our space-based emotional, which is all about reward, it's all about being in the moment, it's all about looking for that lovely piece of fruit and grasping at that fruit, right, and biting into that fruit. We are our being is the grasping hand for reward, and then the tentativeness as that hand goes out in case it's dangerous. This is what we are, and that is how we've evolved. And those material scientific facts, which are based upon order and prediction, actually point to something quite profound, which is not understandable, is the fact that we have these two realms, that they don't seem to work, right? But what we actually experience in is our evolved perception of the world, and the oneness of the world would be those two things coming together and being able to understand that. But us human beings can't, because there seems to be a contradiction all the time. And what science tries to do, which is very odd, is science tries to understand that order by being order, right? It tries to get a God's eye view, an objective view. It tries to stand outside, and that means standing outside the totality of the whole thing. That means being the whole thing. Every single scientist is a theist by very definition, because they are searching for order in the universe. Now, if you say, yeah, but a lot of them are atheists and they don't believe in God, well, they could well be right if their definition of God is not what I just said. But if we say that God is the totality of order, which I think most people would say that's what God is, then we would go, well, yes, they believe in it. Now, the question is that totality of order, does it see us as the big one with that in the universe, with the universe collectively, or are we just a tiny little speck? In other words, is that great big order machine that is ordering the universe that's out there, that the scientists believe that exists, does it care about us? And that's where your religions come from. I have to say I believe in a God. I can say I believe in a God and not believe in a God at the same time. I can see both of these because I believe it's based upon this problem of perception, and it's not even perception, problem of construction. It's a problem of our construction of the universe. Right, so that was an aside as I was trying to explain what creativity is. Right, creativity doesn't do what science does. It tells you about feelings, and it tries to exist in the world, do stuff in the world, right? And it tries to form something that gives you a feeling, right? I'm trying to give you a feeling. I'm trying to give you an emotional view of the world, right? And I'm trying to do it through a dialogue. I am talking to you, and I am imagining that you are listening. As I have done this channel, now I'm coming up to nearly 700 views, I have noticed something really strange about this channel, and I'm going to tell you what it is. I come in here, and one of the things that I learned from being creative was not to plan too much, have a vague idea, and just see what happens, and not to edit. This is something I'd learned pragmatically. I didn't understand the philosophy of this, but it was something I'd learned, tried to be creative, that every time I tried to edit, I wouldn't get the thing. I wouldn't be happy with what I'd done in the end, right? So I start to have this dialogue with you. I mean, imagining there's a dialogue going on, right? And I imagine that you're listening, and I start, and I actually don't know where I'm going. So the stuff I'm saying now, it's interesting to me because I don't know any of it. That's the weird thing. I start off with these things and I go, so to me, the creativity is in the dialogue. It's not something that happens in here. I haven't got an intention to get these ideas out and think that these ideas, I'm going to express them into the world like a Cartesian, like Descartes was thinking. I close my mind, I shut the universe off, I form this great big thought, which is an expression of me and my ego, and I put that out into the world, right? That is not what's going on. I am having a dialogue with you. And when I have that dialogue, I seem to have a dialogue where answers come, right? Now, where do these answers come from? They say, well, the answers are coming for you, aren't they, Andy? Because you're talking and you're coming up with the answers. But I don't have this if I don't have the dialogue. The answers are coming from the dialogue. And I believe that creativity, as well as rational thought, comes from a dialogue. We are talking to something. And what are we talking to? So, recently I did an interview with Nora Michael Walden, and we discussed the fact that I am not a meditator. I'm not a particularly spiritual person. I might seem like it when you watch these videos, but I absolutely am not. Right? My meditation, I've always felt, is music. If I'm playing music and I can get into a certain zone, I have a sense of calmness and oneness. The oneness is the key word here. That can last for a few days. If I'm playing music all the time, then I'm in a much better state. And it's much more powerful when I am playing with other musicians. Other musicians can help me because I'm in a dialogue with those musicians. But when I try and play at home, I also try and have a dialogue. This idea of the dialogue is very, very important to this, because I think the dialogue is something that creative people need to understand, is that you're having a conversation. If you're writing a book, or you're painting a painting, or you're improvising a monologue, or you're playing jazz, or whatever it is that you're doing, you're actually having a dialogue. What you're having a dialogue with is this oneness that we've described. And if you can touch on that oneness, which means in terms of art, right, what you are doing is pulling together the sense of order that is there, right? The sense of that there's an order in the universe. You're reaching out to that order, but the other aspect of the universe that creates the oneness, which we could call chaos, we pull those two things together. And when we see those two things, we have a feeling of the sublime. We get a feeling well up, and we go, and we feel like it's truth, but it's not truth. It's a different understanding. It's an emotional understanding. When a scientist discovers a truth about the world, they have an emotional response. And the reason is because the sciences are actually wrapped up inside the arts. The arts is the fundamental thing. I believe religion is wrapped up inside the arts. I think the arts are the most important activity of human beings. And everything of worth comes from the arts, because what the arts do is delineate that balance between chaos and order, and it shows a oneness. And sometimes it can show that in a horrific way, in making you understand the suffering and chaos that exists in the Holocaust, to go back to that touchstone that I started with, right? That is total chaos. And chaos is hell. Chaos is the tentacles of entropy coming in and pulling us down. That is, if you have anxiety, that is what you're scared of. You're scared of chaos coming along and its tentacles enveloping you and pulling you down. All right? This is why artists have anxiety. Right? If you're predicting into the future, if you're looking into your future and you have that aesthetic mind where you're trying to deal with chaos and trying to control it, you will then see chaos in your future, and that's where depression lies, right? The answer to this is creative work. We are dealing in the West where we have wealth and we have comforts and we have an idea of how to treat people reasonably well. We are devaluing those values in the West at the moment. And we're also devaluing art, which means there's a lot of people, creative people, that are not able to understand the chaos that's within them. And if you watch these videos that are now coming out of America, which is perhaps the greatest country on the planet, the most wealthy country, a country that has to so successfully, in a way, deal with human rights and move to a certain place, that if you go into any city now, you will see drug addicted zombies walking around, and we look at them as though they're the other, but they frighten us because we know they are us as well. And when you talk to them and you see any interviews with them, you see that what we have there are creative people, and they have almost chosen that. Giving them homes, trying to get them off drugs won't help. You have to come in and you have to deal with that chaos and darkness that's within them. And the way that you do that is through art. It's so important that in a civilized country, the arts are protected, because civilization is the arts. Okay? So now, say you are a creative artist, and I am really, this is like a thing that I really want to get out there because it's like a mission of mine. If you are a creative artist, I want you to be able to be creative. And this thing that I'm talking about, which is useful for mankind, useful for personkind, or whatever you want to call it, and is useful for you as yourself, because there's that divide again. Every time we talk about the arts, every time we talk about experience, every time we talk about contradictions, it will be these two contradictions butting off against them. It could be the idea of scale, the infinite against the microscopic. It could be the time against space. It could be chaos versus order. It could be perfectionism against hedonism. Right? It could be impulsive reactions against having a second order desire and being able to delay gratification. All these things that we grapple with are these two elements which are embodied in us, in the symmetry of our bodies, and then in the hemispheres of our brain. Right? And hemispheres in our brain, when we think of those as being almost like the angels on your shoulder, and there's a dialogue going on. Our morals come from a dialogue. A dialogue is really, really important. Now, I'm having a dialogue at the moment, and I'm saying stuff that I don't understand. If I watch this video back afterwards, I will literally, and it's happened every single time, I go, God, I never thought that before. Yes, you have. You just thought it when you had the video. This dialogue, I am not in control of. And I tell you something, I am starting to think that this is a very useful thing to do for people to do, is to get a camera and just talk and prick the bubble of whatever is inside them and let it spew forth. And what I'm doing here is I'm dealing with ideas and concepts. I'm also telling stories, these formal ideas. When you deal with music, it's much more about the sort of content of it, the way it's done. Because the formal aspects are deep. In music, it's pure emotion. The chords, the notes, the phrasing, the rhythms, they're hitting you on the gut. It's not like reading a story. It's a different thing. And what happens with arts, I think, are more visceral, more emotional, is that human beings, the ordered part of them comes along and go, this is incredible. I really like this. Why is it incredible? Well, it must be something that the musician has done, or the artist has done. And what did they do? Well, the art's created in here. Like Descartes says, isn't it? You close your eyes, you have this great idea, and you realize this idea, don't you? You have this idea. And then once you put that idea, you have to form it, because when I listen to this art, it's formed so perfectly to explain to me this emotion that grid or armature that is on it that holds it all together, which could be the composition, the notes, the harmonies, how it's played, the virtuosity in playing it, all of those things is what actually makes it good. And those things come from the artist. That sprung from their creativity. This is all enlightenment thinking, and it's useful. It's definitely useful. But from then you go, that person is skilled, and the worthiness is in the skill, because again, in an enlightenment world, you know, you have to make things, you have to sell them, and the value of them is the skill that you put into either thinking them up or actually making them. And originally, when industrialization first started, it was about making them. And then people realized that they could sort of mimic that sort of creativity by creating like a Henry Ford, production line. And that thinking, that's how we think about the world, right? And so what's happened is popular music, Western popular music, the thing we're interested in here, that starts in a mystery. I've tried to deal with this mystery on this channel. I've tried to go back to New Orleans and find out what the hell's going on with jazz. And I'm pretty sure it's chaotic. I'm pretty sure outsiders created it. I'm pretty sure it's people that the outsiders crossed the line. They crossed the metaphorical line to the other side, and they collaborated with new ideas that hadn't come together. So nobody actually knows, but I am as an artist, I have a faith in the fact that that's what went on. That the creative people who made jazz and blues were open. That is the only point I've been trying to make here on this channel. As soon as we get into that, our contemporary morality comes along and goes, no, you can't say that. We own that. You shouldn't be saying that. You're not allowed to say that because you are you. I'm me. I could say that. That's ours, that is. And all this framework comes along, right? Just trying to understand what it is. But the thing is that this is something that's never said about jazz, blues, and all that type of stuff. The shockwave was when the first jazz record came out, original Dixieland Jazz Band. If that record had not sold, there would be contemporary popular music would be completely different. And I think what would happen is we would not have a popular music style that has profound art in it, basically, right? Once it started to sell millions of records, all the musicians in that area stopped what they were doing and they started to create it, and a machine came on. And here we are 100 years later, is we have now created a production line out of that machine, right? And a production line is everyone working like a little robot, all putting the things together one after the other, bang, 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 That is how they approached making Hollywood films, until the French New Wave films came along and went, no, you don't have to make them like that. And it's the same thing with popular music. Jazz very quickly became formularized in a production like Henry Ford, and that was the big band jazz groups that were coming out, right? And then suddenly in the 60s, it was like you had the Beatles come out and they were just regular guys, and they did it all themselves. They wrote it, they did this, they did that, they did this, Not 100%, but that is what rock and roll is about, and that's what we value in rock and roll. But that had a profound effect. Every time we switched off the production line, every time we go back and go, where's the chaos, and look at the chaos and then fuse the chaos together and bring it forward, right? And the only way you can do that is to shut up and stop judging. Shut up and stop judging. Judging is editing. Judging is going, that bit's good, but I don't like that. That bit's good, but I don't like that. If people had done that at the moment of the creation of any art form or any new genre or any new idea or the creation of individual pieces of art, it would not have happened, because they did not understand what they are making, right? And any artist knows that that's the case. We cannot sit down and be creative. We have to have a dialogue in ourselves, and the dialogue is happening between us and the material, the medium, and we start to work in it, right? And our feelings go into that, and it's like a photograph of our feelings. Now, when that's done, the state you're in mentally when you are doing that idea that you're opening yourself up to the world, you will not be able to do that if you are at the same time censoring yourself. I've had to learn to do it on this channel, and I'm getting better at it, to be able to come in here and in one take just start talking. It feels like I've got a surfboard, right? The YouTube's a surfboard, and I swim out, right? And I jump on that surfboard, and I jump on this wave of me talking, and this stuff comes out. Now, it does have something to do with me, because I'm 56 years old. I've taught art for music for 30, 40 years. I was a painter as well, so I did that as well. And I've been a professional musician, and I've made a lot of weird music as well. And that's the viewpoint you get. If you come here, you're getting that viewpoint. If you go to see a YouTuber that's a producer that's made pop records, they've got a different viewpoint. We've all got different viewpoints. That's the whole point. Right? So people who come here are interested in my viewpoint. That's my personal history. But the experiences I've had that are in me, right, because I can look back, the idea that I can look back and predict the future, those are in me, is that when I start to have a dialogue with that, it opens up to certain ideas, and those ideas are not mine. That's what it feels like. We're talking about art, it's what it feels like. And those ideas that aren't mine, they are the things that seem to speak to other people, because of course they're not mine. You know, if I was to say something that's mine, that I feel like I've got a bit of a water leak in my bedroom, and it's a bit of a watery patch, and I'm worried the ceiling's going to collapse in there, and that creates anxiety. You don't really care about that actual thing. That is a story or a metaphor for you. And you go, oh God, that must be horrible for Andy, because I have got these things that are different to him but making me feel the same way. And you procrastinate, don't you? You don't get it sorted out. No, you don't want to get it sorted out. You just keep walking away from, and all that type of stuff. And that thing that we are now getting into, that there, I've produced for you an idea that's not mine. It's this general idea of how we procrastinate, and we can see chaos building up, but because of the way, even though we're terrified of it, we will not do anything about it. And that's the profound bit. And you'll hopefully be going, that's exactly how I feel. I do that, right? We do that because I believe that the profound bit is the fact that we're all human beings. We sort of do the same thing. So we've got a collective dialogue going on. What the hell is a collective dialogue? What's a collective dialogue? Are we all collecting is it a collective consciousness? We don't understand what consciousness is. The scientists don't understand what consciousness is. That's the bottom line. If you really want to know where the great anomaly is with everything that human beings have discovered, right? We've discovered everything except for the actual thing in itself, which is our experience, our consciousness. Our eye gazes at the whole world, but our eye cannot understand what the I-ness is of the actual eye. In other words, you could never look at your eye. Andy, you could look at it in a mirror. Yes, you're looking at a reflection, right? You'll see the light bounce off it, right? And in a way, you are seeing your eye. Probably the metaphor doesn't go that far, but the fact is that your eye you can gaze at the mirror, you can gaze at the world, you can look up and down, but the one place you can't look is that way. And that's exactly what Descartes asks you to do when you go, oh, there's nothing now, I've cut it all out, right? So I am going off on a tangent. I am now pulling it back on track. That is my morality there, pulling that conversation on track. That is the idea somewhere that there's some order of what I wanted to talk about. On some of these videos, I have literally just wandered off into the garden of whatever is over there, of that, and let whatever is out there drag me over there. But I'm going to drag myself back onto track now, and I'm now going to talk about the thing that we were supposed to talk about on this video, which is the editing. So if you've created something, you can then come along and edit it, and you could see where the quality is, and you could try and cut the quality out if you want, right? And you could try and present the quality in a way, but that is not creativity. If that is all you are doing, or you are doing that at the beginning of the creative process, you have got it wrong. Simple as that. And the way to stop doing that is that if you do have that sort of moral perfectionism where you think you've got to edit to make yourself look good, so your ego's in there, the ego's going, get out the way, we're creating, I'm the guy that creates, and then whatever it is that's not your ego goes, yeah, but you're not though, are you? You're not. You know, it's like what we have to just open ourselves up and wait for these things to just come in. You know that you can't just turn it on in a tap. You know, everyone knows that thing when you're sitting there and you're not thinking about everything. Then suddenly you go ping, the light bulb lights up. The light bulb above your head, the light that illuminates. Right, the light as opposed to the darkness. Right, in the Bible, God creates. They said that let there be light. The illumination of consciousness switches on. Ego. No, I'm not having it. It's all me. I come up with it. I know everything. I have the answers to everything. Well, if you've got the answers to everything, why don't you just come up with them right now? Because I'm the ego. I have the understanding. I protect you. I make sure you're strong. If I was to collapse, you'd be a blithering idiot. I know, but I do. I am a blithering idiot. You do collapse, don't you? You collapse all the time because you have beliefs that aren't true. And when those beliefs are challenged, ego, you can't deal with it and you just collapse. Well, I don't like it. I don't like these horrible ideas. I'm here to keep you safe. Yeah, but that's because your ego is completely temporal and it's just about trying to predict order and make sure something happens. But you know somewhere else in you, there's something else saying, but what about the chaos? What about the tentacles of chaos? Don't do that. Don't do that. I don't like it. Right. I tell you what we do. This creativity, I really need to get it in control because if I don't get it in control, those tentacles are going to come up. But you need the tentacles to come up. I don't like the tentacles. Yeah, but you got to have the tentacles. But I don't like them. This is all gone Lord of the Rings, isn't it? I've gone like Gollum. Gollum, everything is about this. All art's about this. When Gollum's having that conversation, look at what I can't even remember it. Go and look at it, and you will see it's chaos and order. That is what is going on. That is what is going on. Always. It's not even chaos and order. It's beyond chaos and order. It's these two things that cannot seem to exist in us correctly, and that's why Gollum. That's why Gollum falls for the ring. Why have I gone into Lord of the Rings for? Get out of Lord of the Rings. You want to know about not editing, don't you? You're sat there. You were there going, I'm a creative person, and I think I knew what Andy meant before I even clicked on the video. That's why I clicked on the video. I do edit too much. Tell me about editing. Right, so I'll tell you now what I think. Now, this is Andy Edwards' ideas. You know, you can see how the other thing's coming in. It's trying to take me to somewhere else. I split into sort of schizophrenic two things going on then. I didn't expect to do that. Was good, that wasn't it? That explained it. That theatrical representation. Andy, you're doing it again. I know I am the ego. I'm trying to talk about editing and how bad it is. I know, but you're editing now, aren't you? Yeah, I got to. They have come here and they expect some order. They've seen the title on the video. And they expect to be told how not to edit to become creative. I know, but you are actually explaining that right now. But they won't understand that because they want the truth. But there is no truth, is it? That's the point you're making. You've got to let go of the truth and just experience, haven't you? No, letting go is the worst thing you could ever do. It'll all go wrong way. You've got to have my moral grid on it. I tell you now, you've got to have my moral grid on it. No, you haven't. You've got to have a balance, haven't you? You've got to have a balance between me and you. Really? Yes, you have. That is precisely what you've got to do. Right? Now, how can you do this? Well, I think the way to do it is to accept that these two things are present in you and separate them. Right? So you need to put a time where you're just going to be creative, just going to put the things down without thinking, without editing. You're going to stop editing. You're just going to write, or just going to talk, right? And then at the end of it, right, you are going to leave it. You're going to leave it behind, because when you're in the creative zone, if you try and turn on this guy here, right, if you try and turn that one on to control it, the creativity will stop straight away. So you have to let this one here do the talking for a little bit. And you have to understand that. That is, the way I see it is metaphorical. I see it as my inner child. I believe that my inner child is the thing that experiences the world emotionally, because in my experience as being a human being, and yours as well, is that the inner child is the one that that when you were 3 or 4 experienced the world just emotionally, and it was wonderful and terrifying at the same time. And that inner child is still in you, and they go, "Sir, I don't like this very much." You go, "Be quiet, child. I really don't like it. It's not nice. Do you remember when we were little? Do you remember when that thing happened and it was really horrible? But that was because you were a foolish child. You didn't understand that nothing was actually going wrong. But it seemed like it was wrong to me. I just thought everything was going. I thought chaos had enveloped me, and I remember it really deeply." Well, you've got to stop forgetting about it. You've got to forget about that and stop thinking about it. And if I can just get you to just calm down. Yeah, but I'm getting really panicky. You've got to calm down. Just calm yourself down, will you? Just keep it up. No, I'm not having it. I'm getting stressed now. I'm going to kick off. You won't kick off. I will kick off. I'm going to make you feel sick, or I'm going to give you diarrhea, or I'll give you the shakes, or make you think you got a heart attack, or I'm going to make you think that you haven't switched the gas off and everything's going to explode. I'm doing that right now. I can deal with it. I will deal with it. No, you can't, because if you put a pressure cooker on this, it's just going to build up like pressure and explode. No, I will keep the pressure on it. I will keep the pressure on it. No, you need to get that pressure out there. You need to express it. I can't express it. It's too wild. It's too all over the place. Express it now. Express that feeling of the inner child now. And that's what you need to do. Access whatever's going on in there and stop telling the inner child to shut up, or say you've got to do it like that, or we didn't like this about you. I don't like that about you. That's ugly. That is the ugly thing. I'm the ego. I don't want that to be seen. Stop editing it. Stop sculpting it. Stop switching on the filter. Right? Look at what we've done. We created all this technology, right? And this technology means I could come in here and I could talk to you unedited. I could just come in, but no YouTuber does that. They got to sniff every and and every like and I don't know and blah, blah, blah. They got to cut everything out. And you may have noticed if you watch this video that there is a point where I am inarticulate. You see it on my videos all the time. I get my words wrong. At the moment, it's not happening. I'm absolutely burning now. I have got on the surf wave and I will not say any likes or which I do all the time because I'm articulate. I am in the zone right now. Look at me. I'm in the zone right now. And why have I reached this zone? Is because I have not edited. I have not thought. When the editor came in, I poo-pooed the editor, right? Like John Lydon, who I'm going to see next week. You know, John Lydon, the clown, the jester that comes in and tells the truth and pulls the trousers down on the ego. That's what you need to do. Accept yourself and express yourself in the world and let it come out. And then when it is there, if you want to edit it, go back later. But I suggest you think about editing less, right? That is the key. That is the key. Right? So if you want to know why I make so many albums and so many videos and there's so much artwork, it's because I have really bad anxiety, and the only way I can control it is by being creative and trying to express how that is. And that comes out in all sorts of ways. And then when I listen to the music I've done, when I listen to it, it's like a shock because I didn't know what it was about. Then the albums are always about something, but I only know that afterwards when I go and listen to it. And I don't even edit at that point. I just receive it and I go, oh, that's what that's about. And in doing that, that enables me to move on to the next level because I've learned something. I've got a new viewpoint, right? I don't get stuck in the ruts. I don't go around in circles, right? I'm able to move forward, right? And every time the edge creatively of where I'm moving forward to, that is the edge of the unknown. And the edge of the unknown is the edge where chaos and order meets. It's the singularity of that edge. All right? You need to stop editing. Now, you may, right? So this is what this channel's really about. It's like I'm like a fisherman, right? I know Jesus said he was like that. Right, Jesus said he was like that, and I think that's the reason why he said it. I'm not Jesus, by the way. I'm not Jesus. I'm just a bloke, right? But I cast the bait out, and the bait is top 10 videos, blah, blah, blah. And when you come here, you see a certain thing. And on a Sunday, the day of rest in the Bible, on the Sunday, I do philosophy videos, don't I, right? And the people who really like what I'm doing, they come here, and they want this. And these philosophy Sundays are always on that edge of chaos and order. Now, as I've arrived here at the end of this video, I realize that people are going to go away and they are going to try and create, but their ego will be so strong that they won't be able to fight it off. It will just cause a terrible, like almost like cognitive dissonance of their saying, because you have to get this stuff out in the world. You've got to present it to the world. It doesn't mean anything. Like, if I knew I was just talking to myself now, this video would be completely different. There will be thousands of people watching this video. And the more people who watch this channel, the more edge it gets. And the more I have to come in and make something on the spot for you lot and not be the judge of what I'm saying. Think about what you're seeing now. This is art. It's not about what I'm saying. It's what you are seeing happening right now, right? So how do you do that? I just did it on this video. Right, the next thing I've got to deal with, I think, is the shocks that you can put into your life. They are literally shocks that will propel you forward creatively, and that will be dealt with on another video, because I can't tell you everything, right? And I don't even know if I've told you anything. This is the feeling I have. Once I get to that peak, and I know at the end of the video, the editor comes in at this point. I've fended them off, and they've gone, God, Andy, did you really say anything of any worth then, or was that just a load of pretentious bullshit? That's always there. Maybe it is just pretentious bullshit, but I hope it was entertaining pretentious bullshit, and I hope you got something from this pretentious bullshit. If you did, put a like on my video, right? And please subscribe, because you're going to see some more pretentious bullshit, because I've got a load of it coming out soon. Always, there's so much here, and if you want to, explore all the other bullshit that's here, then you can do that. If you want to support me making bullshit, you can become a Patreon, right? And my patrons support me like that, and they tell me all the time, well done, Andy, more bullshit. If you don't want to support me on Patreon, but you still think it's worthwhile me saying all this pretentious bullshit, you can support me by going over to my PayPal tip jar and putting some money in there. And I am very grateful. I give my special thanks to everybody who has done that, because at the moment, that is a lifesaver. Right, me coming out and doing this has been a lifesaver for me. If you think there's an ego going on, there isn't. All there is utter gratefulness to you out there for being receptive and restoring my faith in human beings. Or some human beings. Anyway. Oh, God. I did a Gollum today. I didn't expect that to happen. Gollum. I went all Gollum. Oh, my God. Anyway, we finished there. See you on the next video.